On our trip around Southeast Asia, my friend Jordan and I spent 5 days traveling the beautiful country of Vietnam. With being so rich in its culture, history, and nightlife, Vietnam is said to be a must-visit country not just in Asia, but in the entire world. Our first stop was in Saigon or Ho Chi Minh City, where we would spend the next 2 days exploring its crazy nightlife as well as its two main attractions being the Mekong Delta and the Vietnam War tunnels. As our flight arrived later in the evening, we spent the first night getting a taste of the Vietnam culture and headed straight into downtown.
Yeah, so there's literally like some 5-year-old running around breathing fire. Only in Vietnam. Well, this city is crazy alive tonight. I don't know if it's because it's a Saturday night or if this is a normal night in Ho Chi Minh City, but it's amazing. There's so many people, there's concerts, fashion shows, there's so much going on. Alright, so it's our first official day here in Vietnam, and today we're going to be going out onto the Mekong Delta. If you don't know what that is, it's like a big series of rivers and swamps with all sorts of like villages and floating markets along it. It's one of the most popular things and attractions to do here in Ho Chi Minh City. So yeah, we thought we're going to test it out. We're going to go out with a tour company that's supposed to like take us on the river and like these small wooden boats and stuff and basically just show us the area. So I'm excited. Let's get going. Crossing the street is always interesting in this country. It's basically like playing a game across the road every time.
So we just found this nice little cafe to grab breakfast before the tour. Only spent like $1, which is really nice. Now we're gonna head back over to the hotel and we're gonna wait for like the tourist supposed to pick us up in some sort of vehicle. So we'll see. Alright, made it.
So on the way to the Delta, they actually dropped us off and gave us about a half hour to explore this whole area called the Pagonia or something. I hope I'm saying that right. But basically it's a bunch of like Buddhist temples and statues like the one behind me and all sorts of like beautiful gardens and plants and trees. It smells awesome here. So yeah, just kind of exploring this area, kind of getting a sense of the Vietnam culture and the Buddhists, all that stuff. What's cool is they let you in a few of these Buddhist temples like the one behind me, but apparently when you enter like all these temples, you're supposed to remove all your shoes and like hats and sunglasses and all that to show a sign of respect. Well, that was really cool. We got to explore a few of the different temples here and see all the different statues. Just seeing a whole new culture is really cool. But now we gotta head back on the bus and head over to that delta. We finally made it out here to the water. Not the cleanest water in the world. It's got like trash and seaweed and all that stuff in it. It kind of gives it this brown color. But yeah, it's all right. We're still gonna explore it. Apparently the land, when you get like out past the bridge, it's all supposed to be beautiful. But yeah, let's get on the boat. Oh yeah, no, not this boat. We actually got something a lot nicer.
After arriving at our first stop, our guide took us to a few different parts of this small Vietnamese village, showing us how the local people live and giving us many native foods to try.
Well, we made it a little bit deeper into the village. It's so cool seeing how these people live. They have the biggest fruits I've ever seen here.
As said by our guide, the people living and working in this village do not have it easy. Due to the extreme poverty, many families are forced to call these small fishing boats home, living off salaries no more than $5 to $10 a day. As a result, they are unable to send their kids to school, and many spend their entire lives working right here in the village. What amazes me most is that despite these brutal conditions, the people here never fail to put a smile on their face. As our traditional canoe ride came to an end, we hopped back on the boat where we sailed off to another island and got to see the process of how they turned coconuts into these small caramel dessert. We then were seated down and served a traditional lunch consisting of many different fish and chicken options.
So just finished up lunch. Now we're gonna hop on some bikes, ride around the island. Let's hope these hold up.
After biking around the entire island and nearly missing our boat ride home, I luckily squeezed in some time to send the drone up, and yeah, you're gonna want to see this. We boarded the boat one final time, starting our journey back to the city. The rest of the night was spent exploring more of Ho Chi Minh's crazy nightlife scene, and I'd say it lived up to the hype.
Alright, it's officially day 2 here in Ho Chi Minh City. Today is going to be all about history. We're going to be doing a few different things based around the American-Vietnam War that took place some decades ago. Later, we're actually going to be going on a guided tour through all of like the Vietnamese tunnels and their different bunkers that they used throughout the war. But before we get to that, we're actually going to be going into the city and checking out one of the most famous palaces, as well as the War Remnants Museum. And apparently, from what I hear, it's supposed to be like really anti-American or something. That'll be interesting, see a whole different perspective. So we're getting pretty close. The first palace is just inside this fence. All right, we officially made it in. Palace looks pretty cool. We're just gonna kind of explore the area and see what it's about. All right, so we walked up and that is the beautiful palace behind me. And they actually have some like Vietnamese tanks and fighter jets and all that stuff over there. So we'll get to explore all that. But yeah, first impression, this place is absolutely gorgeous. So we've made it to these couple of tanks behind me, and we were reading one of the signs over there, and these were the actual tanks used in the war. I believe this one is like the Soviet and the one over there is Chinese. It's just really like weird to picture that like people were actually serving in this, you know, trying to blow each other up. It's weird to think about, but it's really cool that they have them on display. They're a lot bigger in person, and it's just insane to think that someone was able to like build this. And yeah, I don't know. So we walked a little further and came upon this fighter jet behind me. Originally, I thought it was like Vietnamese. Well, it is a Vietnamese jet, but apparently it was like supported by the Americans. So it was technically an American plane, something like that. But reading on the sign, I guess one of the guys who was supporting the North actually posed as supporting the South, being with the US, took that plane and bombed the palace right behind me. So it's amazing. You never would have known because it looks so beautiful now, but you know, it was crazy times back then. About to head down into one of the secret bunkers. Well, we just made it out from the palace. That was really cool to see. We got to see some of the rooms that were really used by like the president and all the Vietnamese and US people during the war. We've officially made it to the next location, the War Remnants Museum. All right, we made it in. You can already see tons of like US planes and all this stuff. This will be interesting.
As we finished walking through the museum, we hopped on a tour taking us to some of the tunnels and bunkers that were actually used during the war.
Several bunkers. There are thousands of bunkers like this. And you don't want to get near anyone.
The guides went on to explain to us how the soldiers had to live and survive in these tunnels for extended periods of time in order to stay hidden. This unfortunately led to lots of injuries and diseases to quickly spread amongst the soldiers due to living in the tunnels.
Brush around, not easy to see, like this guy's intense.
They also showed us some of the traps and weaponry that were actually used in the war, and yeah, they don't look too fun.
Oh my God. This is so claustrophobic. I don't know how people did this. We made it. Me and Jordan were the only two that went all the way. Officially made it through that tunnel. That was insane. Like, I literally had to crouch down like that the entire time. And there was a point where it like dipped like a slide. Thought my legs were just gonna snap, but I don't know how soldiers did that back in the day. I mean, total respect and credit to them. That's insane. But me and Jordan were the only two that made it all the way. It's like 120 meters, and a lot of people dipped out at like 20 or 40 meters, but we persevered through, made it. But yeah, man, now I'm exhausted. That was like so tight and dark. Like, if you don't have a flashlight, you're screwed. Literally, there's like some small lights in there, but that's about it. So this is the traditional kitchen.
All right, so we made it back to the hotel. It's always tough to kind of, you know, film the vlog type stuff, especially when you're on group tour. But yeah, we did in fact make it back, and overall I was blown away by today. I honestly wish it was a bit longer, but it's like a 2-hour drive each way. It's 2 hours there, 2 hours back. But it was really cool. We got to go through the entire 120 meter of tunnels. After walking through those, it's just mind blowing to see that like people actually like lived in those and stuff. You know, you can't even stand up. But yeah, we also got to shoot some guns. I wasn't expecting to do that, but it was kind of a last minute thing. They're like, you want to? So I'm like, yeah. So I got to shoot an AK, which is what the Vietnamese troops used in the war. Yeah, it's just really interesting, you know? It's not a pretty sight for both sides. It's just something that, you know, should never have happened. Waste of lives, waste of money. But, you know, it's part of our history now, and I think it's so important to learn it, which is why I'm really grateful to have this opportunity to, you know, go through this entire tour and learn about the different bunkers and traps and different sides and, you know, see all this stuff firsthand. It's just something special. I honestly think I've learned more about the Vietnam War just today in all my years of schooling. So that definitely says something.
Unfortunately, with all that said, our time here in Ho Chi Minh City has come to an end. Overall, I was very impressed by the city and the attractions around it. If you happen to be heading to Vietnam anytime soon, definitely do not skip over this city, as it really has so much to offer. But be on the lookout for my next Vietnam video coming out sometime within the next 2 weeks, and I'll hope to see you there.